How you doing, guys?
Excellent.
Great.
Marvelous.
I just have some questions about the whole atheist position. I just feel like a lot of the things that atheists believe, the criteria that they need to believe them is the same exact amount of criteria, the same amount of evidence that religious believe the things that they believe, which is essentially just no evidence.
Well,
I don't use the term believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's first go over your definition because we might not agree on definitions.
Yeah.
Good
What
point.
is an atheist to you? Let's get your definition of that, and let's get your definition of what you think an atheist believes.
Because, yeah.
So an atheist essentially is just, because I'll give you guys a little background. So I was like a super hardcore atheist, like not even like
Super.
4 years ago, just Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, have their books, read them, like the whole nine. But now that I'm just learning more about it and seeing how just little evidence there is for the things that they're saying that are true is just making me not believe them. So, like, I would define an atheist as someone who just does not believe in God or like gods. That's it.
Okay.
Right? But there's also things that atheists have to believe, right? Because you have to supplement what you think is the cause for the universe.
No.
Right? So you have to have something that you think why the universe exists, right?
Nope.
No,
Not even.
I don't know. And
So
my
you
life
just-
doesn't end with that.
Yeah.
So you don't believe in the Big Bang.
And I
don't-
didn't say that.
Yeah. My position on that, actually, I think is probably one that's more nuanced. I can only really believe or accept something as true to the extent that I understand it. So I think that what I think of as the Big Bang, as it's been not explained to me and I've heard about it tangentially, is interesting. But I'm not an expert on cosmology, so I don't even know what the debate is. I've also heard the
So you
phrase
would be
string
okay saying
theory.
that you don't
so-
believe in the Big Bang.
Okay, well,
Again, it's that
one
word
sentence
believe.
summaries. Yeah.
You look at the evidence.
Well, it
and
is a
you're-
thing that requires belief because there's no evidence for it. So it's either you believe in it or not, because you need like faith to believe it.
No.
There's no evidence
How
at
did
all.
you read those books and come to be able to
Yes,
say those things?
exactly.
A brief history of time covers that pretty well.
Because if you had read those books, you would realize that what you're saying is just you're blowing my mind right now.
Well, that and Stephen Hawking walks through the steps and the observations that led to these conclusions step by step in a very readable way in his book, A Brief History of Time. That's Stephen
Okay, we
Hawking.
could get to Stephen Hawking if we want,
Order
but I
now.
don't really want to get into that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, super controversial guy.
So, I'm pretty like, in order for you to make a positive assertion on something, right, you need evidence. You need empirical, demonstrable, physical evidence. You need to say, like, this is this because we've done this test and we've done all of these, fact
I
checking
can
and
accept
all
that
that stuff,
generally.
and like we know that this is true because there's nothing else to say that it's not true. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, Victor. Before
you know,
we
you even say
move
like you're
further,
doubting the Big Bang.
Yeah.
So
Victor?
like,
Well,
you
here,
know that-
Victor, hold on a sec. Yeah.
Before we move further, I want to go back to where we were so that we fully address it. Is that
Okay.
because I don't want you to go on and be like, he wasn't
Yeah.
listening to me. I want to finish that bit of conversation before we move forward. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you asked if we don't believe, or we do believe, or we reject the Big Bang, right?
Yeah.
And Jamie gave you his response. Ray, do you have a?
Yeah, my understanding of the Big Bang is that's not where it all started. I'm under the evidence that I've seen and read and discussion that it's the universe has always been here, and the Big Bang is just one evolution through there. And so it's just expanding. So the Big Bang is not where it all started or where it's all going to end. My understanding is the universe is infinite and it's always been here and will always be here.
And I'm
Okay, well,
actually
that's
different
just,
from that.
That's just inconclusive with the Big Bang, though. You can't say
Right.
that the universe is infinite and say that the Big Bang happened. That's just they're two compatibly, like, they're
No.
completely
I mean-
opposite of each other. It's either the Big Bang happened, which means that the universe is finite, like it had a finite beginning, it began at a certain point, or
Okay.
infinite, it was always
So
there.
there's a debate that
and I
Matt
actually
did
have a
with,
different
I
response.
forgot who,
Yeah, I'm
where that
curious to
covers
see
this
where-
as well. Yeah.
I want to see the third point. Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You're hired.
You are not invited back.
So, Where I'm at is if we're talking about the Big Bang and Big Bang cosmology, that is a proposed theory, right?
Right.
Okay.
In the word definition of the word theory. Not like the theory that the definition of the word theory that scientists like to use. Oh, it's an absolute fact. No, like this when we're talking about this, like the BigAng and
Victor,
evolution and abiogenesis, it's in like the worst definition of the word, like where it's just like a theory just thought up based on some minor observations.
So
that's the Big Bang. That's black holes. That's dark matter.
Okay.
That's all of that.
Let's actually
a brief history of time. But I'm sorry.
Some point I would like to talk.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So theory. What is a theory, Victor?
Well, there's multiple definitions of it.
No, I want the textbook definition of it, the one that we're going to use
textbook
together.
Definition of it has like 7 different definitions of it.
He means for this conversation in the context of a scientific
field.
field.
The definition of that word, it's really funny.
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, to be clear, he means for the sake of this conversation in the context of scientific conclusions.
Okay.
In the context of the Big Bang, in the context of dark matter, in the context of black holes and abiogenesis and evolution and all of these things that have no evidence for, I would say that theory is just something that is an educated hypothesis based on observation alone, with no empirical studies or no tests, nothing done, just observation.
Perfect.
Right?
That's
now,
actually not what...
You have the other word theory. Then you have the other word theory, like germ theory, which I don't even know why they call it a theory. It's just ridiculous.
No, because your definition's so wrong that you don't understand that that is the right word. And I can help you with that. Good. I'm going to start by reading you the definition.
It depends what context you use the word in that has a different definition.
Well, the context that you're using it in is not right. So we're going to start there. Okay?
Okay, so let's talk about
let's start there.
Dark matter or...
Victor, so the definition of a theory is a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. So we're talking about, this is our best guess, right? And unless we, okay, when we're looking at the world, we're taking our best guess at how it works, right? You can't say absolutes really for anything as long as you're going to try, as long as someone's going to bring in the idea of hard solipsism. We have to make assumptions and do the best we can to learn about the world that we're in. A theory...
Those are assumptions. Those are not facts. Like every scientist on TV
okay,
will tell
Victor,
you that
stop.
Big Bang is a
Victor,
fact and evolution
Victor,
is a fact.
If you're going to talk over me, we're not going to have this conversation.
Okay, again.
Okay.
That's my job.
Yeah, that is Jamie's job. So when we're talking about a theory, we're talking about the best explanation of a thing, right? So let's take the theory of gravity. Do you reject the theory of gravity?
I do.
You do. Why do you reject the theory of gravity?
Because it's never been proven demonstrably, empirically, with a test. There's not one test that has ever been done to prove that one object can attract another object by virtue of its mass alone. The only test that was ever done to prove gravity is the Cavendish experiment, which was done over 300 years ago by a Freemason in a barn. It's absolutely ridiculous. And anyone who thinks that you believe something based on something that was done over 300 years ago, that's essentially religious. If a religious caller would have come into your show right now and be like, oh, I believe this because it's written in a book, 500 years ago, you would look at them like they're ridiculous. But this is what you believe. You believe something that was done in a test in a barn 300 years ago.
Just to clarify, sorry, you were a Christian caller?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not religious at all.
Oh, okay. I wanted to clarify because you said
no,
believing in something
really.
older than 300 years, and for a second I thought you were, and it's the year 2008. That was okay.
So Victor, are you saying that you reject the theory of it? You're not in the straight philosophy A and not A, right? So you're not saying you're against it. You're not. You're just saying that you reject the proposition that the theory of
Right.
gravity.
I don't accept something that was done 300 years ago by a guy in a barn. Like, how can I ever know that even happened? Number one. Number two, even if the test is true,
There's a record of
if
it.
the test came out to be true, the universe wouldn't be able to exist because
There's so many other points than just that one. See, that's where you're running into a problem too. You have to be able to accept other sources of information. That's not the only source of information out there. Gravity is a theory because it's the best explanation of what we experience right now. It's not complete. They're not saying that's the complete explanation, but with the explanation we have, we can do calculations to send a spaceship around the moon and come back because we know the gravity of the moon and we know the gravity of the Earth, and we can figure out how much fuel it's going to take, how long it's going to take to come around and come back. That is our best explanation of gravity at this point. And every time we use it, we reevaluate our gravity. When we flew the probes past Jupiter, they didn't do exactly what we thought. We found out that our gravity, the gravity wasn't quite exactly what we thought it was. So there was more mass in that area than we thought. So we constantly reevaluating our theory each and every time we use it.
We're refining it, but I think,
Science.
hold on. I heard, so Victor, please, are you a conspiracy theorist as well?
Oh, there we go with the label. I love that label. You know, I love whenever I talk to somebody like, "Oh, you conspiracy theorist?" That's all they ever say. And they use that as a shield.
No. We use it to label conspircy theorists.
You're a conspiracy theorist. That means I can't talk to you. I'm never going to talk to you. I'm never going to ask you anything.
No.
And then they use that label like it's a curse word, and it's like it's a spell.
It definitely has the stigma. There is a small group, if you're looking for, that's of conspiracy theorists that's reclaiming it. I don't use the term pejoratively, because
More like a reality analyst. That's
A reality analyst.
whatever I don't
If you
think
were-
is true, and whatever I think, if there's no evidence for it, I'm not going to believe it.
Victor, you need to
I
convert
agree.
Christianity. I won't call you a conspiracy theorist, but I will say if you were a Christian, you would be the turducken of awesome callers. It's just all baked in.
Yes, good point.
I love it. We can just talk about so many things.
To be clear, though,
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
believe
go ahead.
that there is a grand
I got it.
conspiracy, or that there was one? I guess.
Just the moon landing is the fakest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean,
Okay.
the list goes on and on and on. We could talk about so many things. It's like
Oh, that's
they're
beautiful.
bouncing around and it's
Victor?
so fake. I mean, come on, just look at the moon landing footage. It looks so fake.
Victor,
It's a joke.
I want to
Just look at
replace
the
you with
trees.
Hamish. I need you to call more often.
Oh, sure, I'll call every week.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, so let's start with the definition of theory, and let's nail that down so that we can have a real conversation with terms that we agree on. Okay?
Okay, it's contextual. There's multiple definitions of it. There's not one definition of
Well,
the theory.
actually, we use other words with definitions too, so we can agree on multiple definitions so we can make sure that we're talking about the same thing. Okay?
Okay, so it just depends what context we're talking about, and then we could agree to that definition of what we're talking about.
That works.
Yeah.
Does that work for
that's a
you?
good
Okay,
thing, yeah.
sure, yes.
Okay, so a theory, whenever we're using that term, we're talking about the best explanation for a phenomena. Okay?
Okay.
So when you take a look at a proposed theory, as soon as it is disproven, it gets kicked down. And we don't call it the working theory of a thing. It's just a supposed hypothesis, right? If you build up enough to be able to, just like Ray was saying, if you can create a model that has predictive power that can be used in different fields, right? You have mathematics, you have physics, which is applied. You have, come on, help me here, gravity. Everything is impacted by gravity.
Matter.
And the way matter interacts with other matter, the predictive power of people to be able to do that has meant that the theory of gravity, the way we understand it, even though we know that it's not perfect, I mean, we're still taking a look at how gravity works on the
It's how we recorded the sound of two
minutia.
black holes colliding.
Yeah, so even though we're not there, it is incredibly useful, right? It is incredibly useful in our day-to-day lives. It is incredibly useful in what technology has done, right? Being able to launch a satellite, you do need to know how gravity works, and what we have is fantastic.
And the general theory for cell phones as well.
I mean, what we've got so far is pretty freaking amazing. So whenever we talk about theory, that's what we're talking about, okay?
Yeah. So, and what other context could we use it? I still don't understand how you say there's 7 different contexts. So
because when you use it in the context of germ theory, germs is an absolute fact. I can see the germs on the lens of my eye. I know that there's some kind of microorganisms. I can see them physically. I know that they're there. So I don't even know why they use that word for germs. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah,
so what I'm saying is theory can be used for something that is known to be an absolute fact, and it can also be used to explain something that is not an absolute fact, that is just based on some observations, like gravity, like black holes, like dark matter. Dark matter is the biggest embarrassment in the scientific and ever. Like in the history of science, dark matter might just well be the biggest embarrassment.
I thought the Dark Ages
the
were
worst theory I've ever heard in my entire life.
Or epicycles.
Absolutely ridiculous. Dark matter.
I would say
I could go on for days about dark matter.
I can go on for days about.
The reason that science has this word theory and doesn't have use the phrase absolute fact ever is that it deals in decreasing uncertainty. So the things that you're saying are absolute facts. No one would say, 100% whatever. It's the best tentative conclusion we have. At a certain point, you have to say, okay, I've a fundamental understanding of basically everything we can observe from every different angle would throw this off, right? Like the germ theory of disease. There are, I'm sure somewhere, there's someone that doesn't want to do the laundry that'll tell you that the germ theory of disease is a BS, but
actually,
it's accepted. But the word theory means an explanation that's been, you guys have gotten into a definition of it, sorry. So I don't want to supply another one midway through the conversation.
No, that's okay. The germ theory of disease is not that germs exist, right?
It's how the disease
spreads. How disease is spread, how it is transmitted from one person to another, and that you can observe, even without a microscope, when somebody washes their hands, when a surgeon washes their hands between surgeries, they drastically reduce the transmission of infections and diseases. And then you bring it down to the microscopic level and you can actually see what's going on in there. And that is the explanation. Now, if there was an explanation that was given tomorrow that actually had the explanatory power of everything that we know about the germ theory of disease, and more. If it was that much more likely, then we would throw out the germ theory of disease and go with that. That's why it's a theory, because it's more than just a thing that you observe. It's the explanation of a phenomena, and the phenomena there being explained is how disease is transmitted.
So any other context?
Right, okay, but you do understand that theories are always being updated, and there were theories in the past that, like, if you will look at them now, you will look at them like they're absolutely ridiculous and they've been essentially thrown away, right? So just because
based on the evidence,
the best understanding doesn't mean that it can't change, right?
Yeah, and how you would figure out whether it's likely to change is you'd examine the evidence and talk to the people that spend their entire lives examining and finding evidence and refining these theories and learning more things. So for example, evolution hasn't come up yet, has it?
Not yet.
I mean, I can stick with germ theory, right? Like we all accept the explanation of disease or the germ theory, right? And that we can say that that's very unlikely to change, and we know that that's unlikely to change because we've tested it, we've looked at it, we've refined it, we refined it more. We now know the difference between a retrovirus and a regular virus, and that viruses are not classified biologically as being alive. We learn more information, and our understanding is refined, but at this point, the likelihood, conceptually, that tomorrow we learn, oh no, disease is caused by invisible, intangible gnomes is very unlikely, at least conceptually, right? Because we have evidence stacked up to support it, which is how these conclusions happen. And the reason that they don't ever have a point where they go, oh, okay, so we should stop calling it a theory now, right? Is at what point do you do that, and what value does that add to the continuing progress of science as it discovers more about the world as we can possibly observe it?
So I still don't understand how.
We're just debating the definition of the word theory, and we're not like debating, like the things that I want to like talk about.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped on it again.
I'm still having a hard time the contextual concept of a theory. I don't think you ever explained how. At one point, you were saying there were 7 different contexts. And
no, I was just exaggering. I was just saying, if you look up the definition of the word, there's like so many different definitions, and it's like he's looking at Wikipedia right there. Or not.
I can go to Merriam-Webster.
I mean, just to be really quickly, I'm sure there's a definition that describes the way,
I'm sure there.
Oh, hey,
colloquial.
Susie, hi, I'm 11. I have a theory that gumdrops fall from the sky, right? Like, that is a way that people use the word theory, but that's not what we're talking about right now, right? Are we on that page together?
Right.
Okay, just checking, because words have lots of different meanings, and sometimes they're kind of...
But one of the best examples I like when it comes to science is the theory of plate tectonics. When it first came out, everybody couldn't really believe it. They didn't really. Then they found so many different branches of the science that it actually explained things like why these animals are the same on 2 different continents. And for years they had no idea until the guy came up with plate tectonics. Then they said, "Oh, okay, then these start matching." And so it. So a theory is not just for one thing. It goes over when it gets reinforced through the different branches of science. So, but I always like that example about plate tectonics.
Totally.
Yeah, because when he first suggested it, nobody would believe him that continents would float, and so it.
We're signaling so that we don't distract from the caller to try and decide what call we're going to take.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
We've distracted you because we didn't tell you that in advance.
But yeah, I do enjoy the call, and it was quite the experience.
Victor, the reason we stopped you there is because there's not a lot of sense in moving forward if we don't agree on terms. We're just going to talk past each other. So since we did agree on terms,
next week to talk past each other,
then we can move forward.